Today, you're going to create this fully responsive and interactive design without any code. Before we begin, I wanted to mention this video's sponsor, Skillshare.com, which is an online learning community for creators with over 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. So whether you want to fuel your curiosity, your creativity, or even your career, Skillshare is the perfect place to do just that. For instance, you're about to watch my Webflow course, but you could watch more Webflow courses here at Skillshare. Skillshare is also super affordable with an annual subscription of being less than $10 a month. But if you're one of the first 500 people to click on the link here in the description in YouTube, then you get the first 2 months 100% free. So join up. Hey everyone, what's up? Gary Simon of CourseCentral.com. So today we're going to be taking for the first time a look at something called Webflow, and it's been around for quite a while, but basically it's an editor that allows you to build out responsive web pages without touching any code, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So this is a look at the project we're going to be doing, and we're going to be creating from scratch. And as you can see, there's, this is the interface. There's a lot happening here. So I'm going to do my very best describing exactly how we can get up and running. So of course, you can get up and running. You can create a free account on there, although there will be limitations, but you can definitely use my link here in the description and go ahead and sign up if you really like it. For people who aren't 100% familiar with HTML and CSS and writing it and don't want to spend the time writing and learning it, then this is a really great solution to create modern responsive websites that have interactions and page animations based on scrolling and all sorts of really cool things. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so after you have created your account, let's go here to New Project. And you could choose from templates that they have here, very handy. I would probably also suggest checking those out just to see if there's any interactions or anything like that. Although some of these are not free, these ones are, just to see how they do certain things. But we're going to start with complete blank. So Gary's amazing project. They always have something different to say. All right, so really quickly, let me reset this. For the interface, I'm not going to go over everything, just the absolute basics. But over here, you have your ability to add your different elements here. You click on it, you're going to have all this stuff that you can use. I wish there was a kind of like a search, like a quick search thing, but no big deal. Over here you have pages, because obviously a page has multiple, or a site has multiple pages, but we're not going to really be touching that. We're going to be really sticking within this section. There's also e-commerce, or CMS and e-commerce right here. Also your assets can be found here, like your images. And then also settings, which we're not even going to touch. Then also up here, you have your different viewports. So you have desktop, you have a tablet, you have mobile landscape, and then down to the very smallest, you have mobile portrait. We will be working with this as well. So also up here, we have your edits and redos. You also have, let's get this out of here. I don't want to try now. All right, and we also have right here, this just lets you know if your changes that you've made haven't been saved yet. Over here, you could export code. So if, of course, you have to have if you want to upgrade your plan to export your site, I mean, you're going to have to upgrade your plan rather, but still you see all of your HTML here, CSS, and JavaScript. Also, we have the ability to publish, which is pretty cool. So when we're working, we're going to be publishing multiple times just to check it out in a live browser. And then also over here, depending on the elements that you have selected, this is kind of, this tab right here is based on styling it. All right, so right now what's selected is the body element because that's all we have. But as you can see, it's all separated into different sections like the layout, spacing, like your margin and your padding, size, position, topography, all this good stuff, which we will be messing with. Also, this here is a settings section. So each element has different settings depending on which element you've chosen. Over here, it's just kind of like layers in a sense. And so when you start having child HTML elements, you'll see them show up here. We'll be working with this section as well. There's a style manager, which we'll see, and I'm not really going to describe that. We'll just get to that when it comes. And then interactions as well, which is really cool. Just to add dynamic interactions such as like hover animations, just a bunch of stuff. So let's get started. We're going to create like a typical site with a typical layout just to keep things simple. And we are going to add, we're going to start with a nav bar. So we click on add, and what we want is a nav bar element. So this would be listed under components. All right, so they have tab, components, search, drop down, nav bar. So let's just click on that. Mind you, you can also click and drag and place these different components and other things where you want to specifically. But this is a pretty good nav component where it emulates a very typical nav bar scenario where you have your brand, like your logo right here, then also your different nav links. And all this is things that you can edit. All right, so the first thing we'll do is change the color. So let's say for our branding and our colors, we want kind of like a blue. So we're going to come down here all the way to background. So as you can see, you can add an image and gradient or just a color. We're just going to do a color. And so I'm just going to come out around here. Right there, I think. So the hex code, if you want to follow along, is 3067FC. And we can also add this to our swatches. I'm just going to call it whatever it says, royal blue, hit save. Now we can access this later. Let's put in a logo here. Unfortunately, they don't let you put actual like a text-based link. Now I could be wrong, but from what I saw, or for instance, if I come over here and I go to typography and I put in link, like if you just want a type-based, like HTML-based logo, you can't do that. Like if you do this, it says link cannot be placed in the brand. Well, okay then. So we're going to put an image in there instead. So we come out here, we're going to choose image. So I'm left clicking and dragging, just placing that in there. And now we have this big old section. It's kind of like a placeholder image. And now we choose image. So we need to drop files here or just click upload. And I have an assets folder already ready to go here. So we're going to go to desktop. And here's my asset, my logo for Cursetro. All right, as you can see, it's kind of big, and we don't want that. So let's scale it down. So with it selected, and by the way, I'm going to link the assets here so you can follow along without having to screw around and try to find a logo that'll work well. So let's see here. We have different options, and so we have size. We could also, by the way, you can see this little dragger, which I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to drag it, hold shift, basically to a size that I like. That seems pretty good. And so now we have an issue with alignment here. It's not looking too consistent because we have this amount of padding over here and this thing's stuck up at the top and it looks horrendous. So if we click on this nav link right here, just one of them, you can see it has padding by 20 pixels at the top. All right. So when you hover over this, you can see the little diagonal lines over here that show up. So let's just try to add around 20 or so to the top. And the way you do this, you can see when the mouse changes, you can drag down just to add padding. I'm going to go right to around 19. And now it looks nice and centered up right there. Perfectly. Way to go. Awesome. Next up, we want this to contrast more. So given the background color, the highest contrasting element we would have would be white, making these links white instead of black. All right, so when we come down here, we'll see typography. Oh, also, before I forget, let's click on anywhere here in here and we'll get to the body element. Let's change this, you guessed, that's right, to Montserrat. That's the font that I'm always using. People know that who follow me. So now let's click on this. We can see by default it is now applied to here, these type-based elements. So if we come down here to color, we'll see we can make this white now. Now there might be an easier way to make all links white, which I could do if I was just writing CSS easily, but no big deal. Now if we come over here, if we click on this section right here, our container, We come down here, we could choose, or rather to the element settings, we can add a link. We can also open the menu, which will switch us to the tablet view. So notice it has this highlighted. Now we can see what this thing looks like on a mobile element, which we're obviously going to have to work with it. We don't have to worry about that now though. Let's go back here. Let's click add link. So we have one link added there. Let's Control Z to undo. Let's add a services link. So we're going to, right after, so whichever link you have selected, it's going to add it after that. So I want contact to be at the end, which it usually is anyway. So we're going to come back here. Let's add link. There it goes. So now we can double click into it and we'll just say services. Come back, change the color here to white, and there we go. Now, when it comes to these links, by the way, you can link them to a specific URL or to an actual page if you have multiple pages, which you would normally. So that's how you link things up. All right, let's get the actual menu working. So let's open the menu. All right, so we obviously don't want this. It looks terrible. So let's just make this background color. If we go back to our background right here, we're going to choose our royal blue for this and leave this here. We're going to leave that white. The background of this we control by selecting this add or nav menu element. By the way, if we come up here to the navigator, we'll see how this kind of works. We have, for instance, the body element, and inside of that we have a nav bar. Inside of that we have a container, and then our brand, and then our nav links right here. So it's the nav menu that has this gray background that we want to change. So I think we'll just make those white, okay? With that, though, we now can't see the link. So let's select that, typography, blue, same thing here. Just keep on doing this all through down these other ones. I know there's probably a much quicker way because you can in CSS instead of doing this individually, but that's fine for now. So let's click on this now and we'll go back to desktop. And so now if we click on this and choose open menu again, we're going to see it now works. So I'm going to click on publish. Now I had already published this previously. I had to pause and publish it. Just click publish to selected domains right here, and it's now going to work. So if we choose this little link right here, it's going to show us in the browser our project. So now we can simulate these different viewports by that. So we just click on this. We'll be able to see this much better when we have this other photograph image that we're going to have there later. But it would be nice, for instance, if there was some type of way to denote, like if this is clicked. So in that case, we can come back here. Let's go back to open menu. And we're going to click on a style right here for this blue background. And we're going to make it slightly darker blue. Kind of like that. All right, so we're going to see if this works or not. So let's go back here to publish. Publish to selected domains. Click on it. There we go. Very cool. Awesome stuff. Okay, so now going back here, let's add kind of like a hero section, which is kind of like a big section underneath. Let's go back to desktop. And to do that, we're going to add, first we're going to add a section. All right, so if you understand HTML, you understand there's a section element and its purpose, which is just to kind of divide your content into sections, duh. Jeez, all right, so let's left click and drag it just right here. You can see it places it just underneath the nav bar, which is what we want. Again, we can come out here. We'll see it's down here, this section at the bottom here, just inside a body. So now we also want a way to make sure that it's centered. If you come down here and you click on this show light guide overview, you can kind of see the guides that they have set up. So we want our content to start here, because otherwise if we start putting in, for instance, like say like an H1 element, like a heading element, It's going to start all the way over there. We don't want that. Control Z to undo that if you followed. So what we want is another section called a container. So we place that in there, and then it has this centered to where we would actually want it in a real scenario. So now we're going to, before we start adding this, we're going to click back onto our section, and we're going to add a background image. So our background image, we're going to choose that plus sign, and then we're going to choose image. That brings up our assets. I'm going to choose upload, and I'm going to choose the big broad.jpg. And we don't want it tiled. We want cover. Awesome, awesome stuff. Now it looks kind of silly now because vertically there's not a lot happening there. But what we will do is we'll adjust that momentarily. But first, let's choose our container, and let's add an H1 element, a heading element for a title. First of all, we want to see it, so let's make it white. And let's change the type. We're going to say, I don't know, design like a pro. All right, hit escape. So now we need to add some padding because this is way too close to this heading element, right? So we're going to take this element, which is the section element, and we're going to adjust our padding. So if you left click and hold or drag down, it'll just affect the top. But if you hold Alt, it'll choose for both. Awesome, awesome stuff. Or it'll affect both rather. Talk regular. What are you doing? So now after this, let's have like a outside of a heading, let's add like a paragraph. So we choose typography text block right here. So you don't always have to drag. It'll just automatically add things after what is currently selected. Or you could drag too, not a big deal. Let's make this white. All right, this is some text inside of a div block. Let's make that a little bit more interesting. When you learn with design course, you become a damned good designer. All right. So I think I want the size to be a little bit bigger. When it comes to topography and HTML and CSS properties for sizing, prefer to use, by the way, this is where it allows you to change the units from pixels, percentage to EM. I don't see rem units though. That's interesting. Let's just do that. EM, way too big. So 1.3. Yeah, I like 1.3 EM units. All right, that's looking pretty solid. All right, so by the way, you can see there's uneven amount of white space or margin or padding from the top of the design like a pro, the heading element, versus down here. That's because H1 elements by default have margin that's applied to them. Wow, 12 app updates available in Creative Cloud. I have to update that. Let's see, we're going to take this one, and I think we'll scale that down all the way to 0. Not negative. So you can, of course, go negative. Now I kind of want to select this and hold Alt and increase it a little bit here on desktop. All right, that's looking good. I don't know about you. That looks great. Okay, let's add a call to action button underneath it, though. So what we'll do is select this last element, come over here, and come to, let me see here. I'm not sure, where is the button element? This is where it'd be nice to have like a search feature. I don't want to submit. I just want a button. Oh, right there. I am blind. All right, so here's our button. Look, it's almost the same color as our branding, but it's not. So let's come down here to color, choose our royal blue. There we go, slightly different. And then let's add some margin to push it away. No, not padding. There we go, margin. I want my button to have rounded corners. So we come down here and we find borders. There we go. So just increase this. Perfect. I don't want huge rounded, so it's only 4 pixels. I want this to be a bit bigger for the text. So very simple. We will come over here to size. Again, let's choose EM. We'll choose like 1.3 again. And we will make it bold. Let's change the button text. Just double click. And I will choose, or specify rather, start learning. Also, I want a little bit more padding, a little bit different padding than what they have. So make it a little bit, oh, hold Alt by the way. And then Alt that way. That's fun. That is very fun. All right, this looks good to me so far. Yeah, I like that. Let's even make this a little bit more. I want you guys to see the actual image. This looks stupid. Like what is this? You understand what it is though. If we hold Alt and we can see, there's a keyboard there. There we go. Yeah, that's a keyboard. All right, so now let's see what things look like now, like on a tablet. I don't really like this too much. There's not enough white space over here. Let's try a phone. That definitely looks horrendous. So we'll be able to make adjustments to that stuff momentarily. But I first want to get everything working here just on desktop. So the last thing that we're going to add is kind of like a section down here with latest videos. So we could just get away with just adding a container right here, which would just be this. There's a container element right here somewhere. If you can't find a certain element that you know exists, because we do have a containing element right here, you just click on this and we'll see we have body section, or we can come down to like a child element and then we can see our container is actually right there. If we add just a container, we wouldn't be able to control this whole background behind it. So we're going to once again, here, let's just select this element and then we'll once again choose a section. Oh, I don't want the section to go inside of there. It just told me that's not what I want anyway. Let's try this again. We'll just take it and just drag it there. There we go. That's our new section, and now we can give this its own background. So I want a really light gray. So all E's, 6 E's for the hex color code. All right. Let's see here. So now let's have a container inside of it. No, not there. I'm just going to start dragging things. What am I doing? There we go. So now the container, we're going to have like an H2 element for a heading. So we drag this in there, make it an H2, because this is the most important element. So H2 is just going to say latest latest videos. There we go. It's too big though, so we're going to scale that sucker down. Switch to M units, and we'll choose 1.3, I think. No, 1.5. There we go. Now, this design-wise doesn't really make sense being this close up. So we'll take our container and we will add some padding here. Actually, I don't want it to have even padding on the bottom, just the top. Something like that. Now, after this, we're going to add kind of like a bunch of thumbnail-based images, kind of for like the latest videos or something from my channel or something. This is a completely fictional project, by the way. So to do that, we'll use the grid. So if you understand CSS and you know there's different ways to lay out various elements, the grid is one of them, and it's one of the most awesome, most flexible ways. And this supports it very well, their system on Webflow. So we're going to choose Add Grid right here. So now it takes you into this very strange interface where you're not clue what the hell is going on. If you don't know what the FR is, I definitely advise checking out. I have a couple videos on the CSS grid itself, but really it's all over here. What you can modify comes over here, and the other stuff is grayed out. What we want to ask ourselves is how many columns do we want on the desktop viewport and rows based on our needs. So I think on here it would be nice to have 3 columns. So I'm going to choose Add. Very simple. That works well with me right here. I kind of only want to have just 6 different elements just to show. So we can hit done. And now if we go back to our navigator or the layers, we can see really the grid is just one element, one HTML element. It's a parent element. There's nothing inside of it, even though it's showing these dashed outlines. You have to actually add stuff inside of it, right? So I think what we'll do is I kind of want to have a card-based layout here for each tutorial with an image, like a thumbnail, and then like a title below it. And I want them to be white. So it's going to be white. It's going to be sitting on this background so we can see it. So let's choose, I think, just a div block here. Drag that sucker right into there. Then we can come back to our Styles tab and we can give it a background of white. Sweet. Next, we want to add into it an image. So let's choose, where's my image at? Right here. Let's move this. And let's choose image. So I have one already, kind of the same thing up there called thumb. There we go. All right. So it gives you some options here. I don't want to scale this at all. But as you can see, it takes up the whole space of the element, the div block that's inside of it. So if we select just the div block, make sure that's selected. What we want to do is come out here and we're going to add another div element. And you'll see why. So we choose div block. All right, so now this div block right here is allowing us to have, space where we can still see this card layout. If you wanted to, you could do like padding inside of this element too, but I kind of want just it to be this graphic right here, the photo and nothing else. Again, some of this is subjective. So with this div block, we can now add like a title or a link. So with it selected, we're going to choose, find it already. There we go. There's our link. So the link's not going to go anywhere, but let's double click into this. I'm just going to give it a fictional title. Learn Webflow in this crash course. Awesome. Looks like garbage though. We have a padding issue, so let's work with that. So we're going to select the div block and we're going to add some padding. Now, if you hold Shift and Alt, you can affect all of them, all sides, which is what we want. There we go. Now we're going to select that. We don't want to underline, so under Typography, we just choose X. We also want this to be bold, and the color is going to be a royal blue. Let's also make it just slightly larger, so it's like on 2 lines. So again, this is one of those things. EM, let's change that to 1.2. There we go. I like that. And there we go. That works very well. Now, I want to have 5 more of these. So what do? Well, this is where we're going to introduce our components. So if I select, let's see here, our div block right here. Now the div block has now selected all the stuff that's inside of it along with the child elements. What we can do is come over here to add symbols, and this is going to let you know where all your symbols are. We can right click on this and choose create symbol. We'll give it a name. I'm going to name it tutorial, create symbol, and now there we go. So now if we come over, if we select our grid, and then we come over here to symbols, we can just drag this right here, do it again. We can do it more so, a few more times. Look how cool that is. Now, of course, I know what you're probably wondering. Well, what if you want to make an adjustment to one of them specifically? You can do that as well. If you right click, let's do this one. We right click, we choose unlink from symbol, then you can make specific changes to this element without the other ones being affected. So you could change this text and all that good stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to back up, by the way. If you make a change while it is still a symbol, it'll make a change to everything else. So check this out. Just like that. So any of the CSS styles as well in the side pane over here, it will affect all of them. So I'm going to just go back to that. All right, so this is almost good. We can see if we choose our section here, our container here, we have 50 on the top, which we really should have 50 on the bottom too. So right here, I'm just going to type 50. Now we have some padding at the bottom. All right, so this is looking good. Let's go ahead and publish this. We're not done yet though. Publish to selected domains. We're going to check it out. Look at that. Now, for some reason, if I drag all the way in, it's not getting us to the phone viewport. If you want to do that, hit Control-Shift-I, and we just choose like a Galaxy. Let's see here. Yeah, Galaxy S5 actually. Yeah. Here's our nav. This looks bad. This really looks bad. So let's start working on the responsive nature of everything. So I'm going to close other tabs. There we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and focus on the responsive nature of things. So we'll click on tablet. Any changes you make to any of these other, device specific tabs up here are specific just to that tab and all the ones that are smaller than it, than all the other devices that are smaller than it. So let me just show you what I mean. This is on a tablet. This actually looks pretty good. I don't think we need to collapse these into single rows or single columns just yet. I kind of want to add more white space on the left and right, especially on this section. So we'll take the selection, which is the parent container of all this stuff, and we will choose to add some padding. So hold Alt. So we're just going to move it in by 37 pixels. That's good with me. We could do the same thing right here to keep things more consistent. So Alt, oh, that's not working. Let's choose the container. So we make this come in. I'm kind of eyeballing this one because there was already more padding on here. There we go. So now if we go back, we can see now it's maintained those changes. And also, if we come down like here to the smallest, we could see it maintain those changes here as well. Although we're still going to have to fix those. Looking at this, there's not really too much else I think would need to be changed necessarily. You might want to fix this issue where it says damn good designer and it's on top of this white keyboard, so it's kind of hard to read. I think we could change the width property. So if we do a width based on percentage and change this, I don't know, to 50, that could work. So now if we go back here, again, because this is this is desktop, it doesn't have that element, but if we switch back, it goes to 50. So I think that's pretty cool like that. And again, you'll see this doesn't really work though on this viewport right here. So we'll make changes to that as well. So going back here, I think I'm happy with everything so far. So now I'm going to skip mobile landscape really, just because I don't want this to be too redundant. You're going to understand after doing these two how to adjust things. But a lot needs adjusted here for this to look correct. So we're going to select our selection. There's too much padding or white space on the top and the bottom. That's the first thing we'll change. So our padding, Alt, we're going to drag down to around here. This is way too big, so we're going to change the font size. Right here, oh, this is based on pixels. It's no big deal though. Let's go back to EM and we'll choose 1.5, I don't know. Looks fine to me. We'll take this, maybe 1.1. Let's make it back to 100% over here. All right. Let's make this button span 100% to the width of the containing element. So we select the button element, we choose 100 and just type %, and then also center the text. Make it a little bit smaller. All right. I think that looks pretty good right there, even though we have this issue here. I'm not too concerned about that just for this tutorial. Now the big issue is down here. These should definitely be collapsed into just a single column. So it's going to be 6 rows instead of just 2 rows and 3 columns, if that makes sense. So the grid, we want to make sure we have the grid selected, and we click this button to edit it. And now we just get rid of all the columns with exception to one. Oops, what am I doing? I just added one. And there you go. It freaking works like magic. Click done, and there you go. Now there's too much white space here, so we'll bring that up. I'm holding Alt to affect both the top and bottom. And really when I do that, I'm kind of looking at the top here, on the top of this, from the bottom of this container as well as here, just to make sure they're pretty consistent. All right, awesome. Okay, so now what else is there? Oh yeah, there's too much white space on the left and right here. So let's bring these back here. Yeah, something like that looks pretty good. Now let's check it out. Let's go to publish here. We're not done yet, by the way. We're gonna have some interactivity. Let's publish it. All right, here's normal. Here's our menu coming in. And unfortunately, I can't get me to that size yet, so I can just hit Control-Shift-I. And there we are. We're at the mobile viewport. We have a Galaxy S5 sitting here, and it works. So of course, if we switch to what's a Pixel 2? That's a phone. iPad Pro. There's the tablet view, and there we go. Very, very cool. Let's get out of there. So now, what if we wanted to add some sort of interactivity or animation? Let's say, for instance, if somebody hovers over this button, we want it to, I don't know, animate in some strange way, right? So we select the button here. We're going to come out over here to this tab to the interactions. So we're going to do an element-based trigger, and there's also a page-based trigger, like if a page loads or something. So let's choose plus. We're going to choose a mouse hover. So you could choose, you know, if something, you can make something happen if it clicks. Mouse move over a different element, it'll affect this one. Scroll into view while scrolling in view. Very cool. So let's go ahead and choose hover. Very simple. So the action on hover, what do we want to happen? Well, we have appear and disappear. I don't think we want that one, but we have emphasis. So we could choose like pop. All right. So let's click preview, and that's what's going to happen if somebody hovers over that button. Let's try it out. So let's publish, and we're going to click that. Works. Isn't that fun? Oh man, that's so fun. Normally you'd have to be spending quite a bit of time working these animations in. All right, so let's also make it so that maybe on page, we're going to have a page trigger. So let's just choose this container. The container is the parent element of all of this stuff here. And let's say, for instance, when the page loads, I don't know, we want this stuff to scroll from opacity 0, so it's hidden, into 100% opacity, but also we want it to kind of go from down and then kind of move up. So let's select that container. On page load, you can also do page scrolled, so there's a lot of other things you can experiment with. On page load, so when the page starts loading, what do we want to happen? There's an action. We want to start an animation. So we don't have any animations. We're going to click plus, and here we go. So let's click plus on the timed actions. So the first thing we want is opacity 0. Now the opacity settings down here, it's at the very bottom. We're going to hide it. Now, what we want to choose is timing for this initial one, set as the initial state. If you don't set this, then what will happen when you load the page, it's going to show it and then it's going to hide and then it's going to show back again. So we want the initial state of this element when the page loads to be this opacity 0, if that makes sense. So we're going to choose that right there. All right, so now if we also want another thing to happen though. We don't just want the opacity to go from 0 to 100%. We want the opacity and movement to change as well. So we click plus right here, and we're going to choose move. All right, so now for move, we're going to change the Y. We have X, Y, and Z. We're going to change the Y value. Now you can see how it's moving up. We're going to have it maybe right around there, about 74 pixels. Again, you can change the units over here if you wish. And that looks pretty good to me right there. Okay, so now what we want to happen is we're going to add, oops, make sure we have our container selected. On the end, we're going to change this opacity to, we have 100%. We're going to add another one for move, and we're going to specify, okay, it looks like, let's see here. We want this to go from here. All right, so the move is not working. Let's choose 0. Oh, that's why. So now if we click play, this is what it looks like. So it's a little bit jagged, and that's okay. We have a duration option down here, which choose like 2 seconds for this, and we'll just do an ease in. You can see all these easings. This will affect how the animation shows itself. So I'm just going to do ease in. All right, and then we'll do the same thing here, 2. You don't have to do the same thing. They can be, different values, ease in as well. So if you hit play, yeah, something like that. So now let's see what this actually looks like. So let's publish this, open it up. Look at that. So freaking cool. So in the little time that we worked on this, which really it's been like what, 45 minutes, we've created a site here that is pretty solid and has even interactions and animations, and some of which would even require a JavaScript. Well, I don't think we did anything specific that would require that, but if you use some of those other types of like the page scrolling based animations and triggers, that would require JavaScript. So what's really cool is if you go to export code, here's all the HTML that it generated, and really it doesn't look that bad based on because a lot of these editors kind of will sometimes produce unnecessary elements. Same with CSS. I know there's going to be some unnecessary elements like this right here. Definitely don't want that stuff because I changed each color of those links even though they're all the same. I wonder though if they're perhaps running some sort of minification on this anyways. I'm not sure. Either way, very, very cool. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that. As you can see, we really just touched the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot that you can do with it. Very simple once you get a hang of how to adjust things. So definitely check it out with my link here, and I will see you guys real soon. Goodbye.